Path of Exile Harvest League has been going on nearly a week now, and I've been having a blast. My league starter was Ball Lightning Totem Hierophant this league, and this guide is going to cover that. I previously put out a leveling guide for my league starter, which I'll include in the description below, but I haven't really put out a full endgame guide for it yet. So here it is. The character went wonderfully, and hopefully you enjoyed as much as I did. Hello Exiles, this is Ryan from behindeyesgaming, and welcome to another Path of Exile video. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and hit the bell icon to be notified of new Path of Exile content when I release it. There will be timestamps for the various sections of this video in the description below. Now on to the good stuff. So why would you want to play a Ball Lightning Totem Hierophant? Well, the character is very strong and more than capable of scaling to all the game's content. It's also a very easy character to play, as you basically only press 3 buttons: your totem, your movement skill, and occasionally your curse against particularly tough rares and bosses. This character also has the benefit of not being very gear dependent compared to many other builds. That's not to say that it doesn't benefit from 2 particular items, but we'll get into that when we get into the gearing section. Now onto the skill links. We're using Ball Lightning with Spell Totem. We'll want to link these with slower projectiles, controlled destruction, lightning penetration, and increased critical strikes in that order. If you can afford a level 5 awakened added lightning, you should be using that instead of increased critical strikes. In fact, even a level 1 awakened added lightning is a DPS boost, so you can replace that even if you just want a level 1 yourself. For your movement skill, you'll want Flame Dash linked with Arcane Surge, Second Wind, and faster casting. In this build, we use 2 cast on damage taken setups, first with Immortal Call and increased duration, and second with Tempest Shield. Immortal Call works nicely as we generate endurance charges with our Ascendancy, granting it greater physical damage reduction and an increased duration. I use a level 9 Immortal Call and level 7 cast on damage taken in this setup, but if you want to keep it lower or raise it higher to your comfort and gear level, that's up to you. Since this build is very light on use sockets, the extra little bit of block and spell block from Tempest Shield can be useful free mitigation. There's no benefit to leveling the Tempest Shield setup at all, so keep them at level 1 so that you're triggering it constantly. We are using Wrath as our only aura since we use Mind over Matter. Later on, when we have the gear with extremely good resistances, we can put it in an Essence Worm to increase your effective health pool substantially. And finally, we use Conductivity as our curse to boost damage against single targets. You can improve the utility of the curse by also adding faster casting and increased area of effect. Now on to the skill tree. I've already gone over it in the previous video, but I'll go over it in this one as well, and there have been some minor changes, so I'll put those up on the screen. You'll travel through the Templar's elemental nodes down into the Life and over to Light of Divinity and Holy Dominion. You go through Devotion up to Ancestral Bond for the +1 max totem. From there you move over to the Witch area, picking up Quick Recovery on the way. I would recommend waiting to pick up Mind over Matter until you have enough mana and mana regen to no longer spend your mana potion. And then you can head over to the Shadow area in order to get enough dex to run your slower projectiles, and fill out the notables there going through Crit. Then you want to head up through the Witch spell crit and grab Cruel Preparation and Deep Thoughts. You can generally grab Mind over Matter around this point to improve the mana pool, and for the other great bonuses they grant you, you can then get Mystic Bulwark and Prodigal Perfection. Finally, you can start grabbing all of the crit and utility and totem nodes that you missed along the way, along with Nimbleness, because cast speed is very nice to have for this build. For our Ascendancy, we get Pursuit of Faith, which drastically increases our DPS and utility. Next, we pick up Ritual of Awakening, which rounds out our main totem synergies. After that, we grab Conviction of Power for power and endurance charge generation, along with a little elemental damage reduction. And then finally, Divine Guidance, putting our Mind over Matter spec to peak efficiency. For bandits, we're helping Alira, and Pantheon is up to personal needs, but I'm using the Soul of Solaris for my major to help against large single target bosses such as Cirrus, and Soul of Ralakesh for my minor to lower bleed damage as I have boomer reflexes, even though I do have a bleed removal flask. Next on to gearing. The only required gear is a +1 maximum summoned totem shield. Since we're going Mind over Matter for our main defensive mechanic, it's probably better not to use Tukahama's Fortress. While it does provide some defensive utility and allows us to run Wrath unreserved, our overall life pool will be much more difficult to scale. You can acquire the Totem Shield by getting an item level 70 or higher shaped shield and rolling it. The new harvest mechanics make this quite easy as they're basically free chaos spams. Otherwise, you can simply buy one, although they do tend to be a bit more expensive. Another thing you can look to get besides life and possibly resistances on the shield is the roll that can give you % life when you block, as we are scaling a little bit of block and that can help us recuperate our health pool. Outside of that, once we have our resistances sorted and on other gear, an Essence Worm can be very beneficial, giving another 1500 plus mana to count towards our effective life pool towards endgame. And then generally on the gear, you're just going to want life, resistances, enough to get you up to elemental weakness cap and maps, which is 115 total after all of the minuses from Kitava, and then mana. Of course, you'll want movement speed on boots as well. This build can easily get you all the way to tier 16 maps with pretty cheap and average rare gear though, provided you at least get the shield and nothing else is really required of it. You do, however, have the option of going with a 7 link by using a 6 link soul mantle. This requires you to become curse immune though, as otherwise you'll probably constantly kill yourself with self-curse when your totems die. You can easily get curse immunity by equipping 2 Kikazaru rings, which give you 40% reduced curse effect, and then you can allocate Sanctum of Thought on the skill tree. This will give you 100% reduced curse effect on you, making you functionally immune to curses. This means you can't run Essence Worm and none of the items have life on them, so you are taking a huge hit to your survivability in exchange for more damage. On your amulet, I would recommend anointing Battle Rouse, as it gives both a significant amount of mana as well as 10% of damage taken gained as mana over 4 seconds. This allows you to recoup the mana very easily when taking damage, adding even more survivability, and it's a cheap anoint as well, so you can get it very early on, even solo self-found. Next, I'll cover the playstyle of the build. Generally speaking, you'll want to place your totems between you and the enemy in order to draw their aggro and block projectile attacks. This adds yet another layer of survivability to the build, making it able to take on maps that would otherwise destroy it. You want to flame dash fairly regularly in interval to keep up your arcane surge for maximum damage potential, and curse anything that takes more than a second to kill, usually beefy rares and map bosses. It's a very simple and relaxing playstyle. You also can use your flame dash to reposition, as with Second Wind it has a very low cooldown. As far as map mods go, no regen is extremely difficult to run and requires you to slowly progress with your totems in front of you and mash your flasks. I wouldn't recommend running this mod if you can help it, and generally avoid the 60% reduced regen maps as well. 20 and 40% reduced regen is fine, but you should be slightly more careful even in those. Ellie Reflect requires you to resummon your totems constantly, which the build can do, so it's up to your discretion whether or not you want to bother. Any map mod is technically runnable for this build, but the previously mentioned one should be avoided if possible. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what your league starter is going to be in the comment section below, or what it ended up being. While the newer YouTube studio makes it harder for me to reply to everything, I do read all of the comments. If you would like to help support the channel, there will be a link to my Patreon in the description below, where you'll get access to exclusive content. You can also join our Discord server using the link in the description below to chat about Path of Exile or just hang out and chill. This has been Ryan from Behind Eyes Gaming, and I will see you next time. Bye!